So today, we are unpacking a truly wild stack of sources to figure out how we broke the mirror of human existence and, more importantly, how to piece it back together.
We're diving deep.
We are. We're looking at notes from a curriculum called the School of High Magic, Module 1, Unit 1, which focuses heavily on the 19th century French occultist Eliphas Levi, and these notes are curated by this incredibly fascinating character named Ben Hod.
Yes, Ben's background is really what makes this specific deep dive so compelling for me.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's a former college pastor and worship leader who just pivoted careers completely. By day, he's a financial advisor.
Right?
He manages retirement funds and college savings accounts, operating entirely in the cold, hard logic of compound interest and market trends. But by night, he obsessively unpacks 19th century occultism.
It's the ultimate double life. But that dual perspective, like blending rigorous theology with the uncompromising reality of financial planning, it gives him this incredibly grounded lens.
It really does. He looks at what most people would dismiss as obscure mysticism or parlor tricks and treats it like a rigorous mathematical science of reality. We even have an original song in our sources today called Descartes' Error, inspired directly by Ben's reading of this dense philosophical material.
I love that we have a song for this.
That's so good. But to understand this so-called magic, we have to start exactly where Eliphas Levi starts. We have to take a massive swing at one of the most famous phrases in human history. René Descartes' cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am.
It sounds great on a coffee mug, right?
Yeah,
And it has practically functioned as the operating system for the modern world.
definitely.
But Levi points out that this was a catastrophic shift in the spiritual tectonic plates. Let's look at the mechanics of what Descartes actually did.
Okay, set the scene.
So he was sitting in his 17th century room, engaging in this radical doubt. He wanted a foundation of truth so rock solid that not even a hypothetical, all-powerful evil demon could trick him about it.
Right, the famous evil demon thought experiment.
Exactly. So he stripped away everything, his senses, his physical body, the outside world.
Completely isolated himself.
Yeah, and he decided the only thing he couldn't doubt was the fact that he was doubting.
So he landed on his own intellect. He decided that because he was thinking, he must exist.
Exactly. And Levi argues this was a terrible mistake. By making his own internal thought the starting point for existence, Descartes shoved the human ego into the driver's seat.
He inadvertently alienated the individual from the universal source of being.
Yes. It's like looking at your bank app.
Oh, I love the financial analogy from Ben's notes. Descartes is the guy who thinks he's rich simply because there are numbers glowing on his screen.
Right?
But Levi is stepping in and saying, no, the screen can glitch, the server can go down. You are only actually wealthy if you hold the deed to the physical land under your feet.
Exactly. Descartes mistook the thought of existence for existence itself.
That is a perfect distillation of the problem.
He thought he was finding the floor of reality, but he was actually just grabbing onto a piece of furniture. Levi views this shift from I am to I think as a dangerous narrowing of the human experience.
It's super limiting.
It is. Descartes stripped the divine of its essential presence, replacing a living, breathing, universal existence with a mere mental construct generated by an isolated human brain.
Okay, but hold on. I get the criticism. It sounds very isolating.
Yeah.
But realistically, didn't Descartes kind of have to start there?
How do you mean?
Well, if I want to prove I hold the deed to the land, to use my own analogy, I have to be consciously aware of myself holding it, right?
Okay.
How do you possibly bypass the intellect to prove you exist?
That is a big question.
If I don't start with my own conscious awareness, aren't I just a rock? I feel like my modern brain is screaming that Descartes is practically right.
And that tension you are feeling is the exact trap Levi says the entire Western world fell into.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you are assuming that consciousness generates your reality rather than consciousness being a feature of your reality.
Right.
Levi offers a profound ontological counter-argument. Ontology being, the philosophical study of being and existence itself. Levi replaces the cogito with a new axiom, I am, therefore, being exists.
Wait, I am, therefore, being exists, but I'm still using my brain to process that statement. Walk me through this step by step, because I am genuinely stuck on how this isn't just semantics.
Well, let's look at the literal grammar of it. I mean, thinking is a verb, right?
It's an action.
Exactly. It is a consequence. You cannot possibly have a verb without a noun or a subject to do the verbing in the first place.
Oh, yeah, that makes total sense.
Right. So by starting with, I think Descartes basically puts the cart before the horse, if you'll forgive the pun. He makes the human ego, the action, the starting point instead of the actual human being itself.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see. He's trying to build a house starting with the second floor.
Precisely. If your ego and your thoughts generate reality, you are utterly alone. You are trapped in a solipsistic hall of mirrors where you are only ever talking to yourself.
Frantically trying to think yourself into existence every single second.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And Levi wants to get us out of that exhausting hall of mirrors and back to what the source notes call the ontological capital of pure existence.
The ontological capital.
Yeah, you don't have to generate reality. You are simply participating in a reality that already deeply, fundamentally is.
Okay, that actually feels like a massive psychological relief. So, if starting with our own anxious, isolated thoughts is like building a house on sand, where do we find the bedrock?
Where is this pure existence?
Exactly. Levi looks back to ancient theology to find a better foundation,
Yeah?
specifically to Moses and the burning bush. And what's interesting in the source material is that Levi isn't just looking at Moses as the guy with the stone tablets, like a Sunday school character.
No, not at all. In the esoteric tradition that Levi is drawing from, Moses is viewed as the foundational architect of Western law. He is the crucial bridge who transmitted the ancient, profound Egyptian mysteries and synthesized them into the Hebrew tradition. Levi is peeling back the familiar religious text to show the raw philosophical muscle underneath.
And the absolute peak of that muscle is the moment at the burning bush, when Moses asks God for a name, basically asking, like, what is your core identity? Who am I dealing with?
Yes.
The response he gets is, Ehia Asher Ehav. Most English Bibles translate this as I am that I am, but Levi chooses I am he who is, or the Latin ego sum qui sum. It's pure raw being.
It is, and the source notes point out that the Hebrew phrasing is actually active and dynamic. It's more accurately translated as I will be what I will be.
I will be what I will be.
Yeah, it is a rugged, visceral fact of existence that just refuses to be categorized. What's fascinating here is that Levi calls this the absolute first axiom of occult philosophy.
By calling God the being of beings.
Exactly. Levi positions the divine not as an old man in the clouds, but as the mathematical constant of the universe. It is the ultimate noun that makes all the verbs possible.
You do not think your way into existence. You exist, and therefore you have the capacity to think.
Exactly.
It's so abstract, but Ben's notes connect this ancient mysticism to a brilliant, highly relatable parenting anecdote.
Oh, about his daughter.
Yes. He brings up his 9-year-old daughter, Ellie. He says she possesses this absolute, undeniable self-assertion of her own reality. Like, she doesn't care what anyone else thinks. She doesn't second-guess her right to take up space.
She just is.
She just is. And reading that, I realized that perfectly illustrates Levi's point. You don't need a syllabus or a complex logical proof from a 17th century Frenchman to prove you are real.
Right.
In a modern world full of speculative fluff and digital avatars, undeniable physical existence is the ultimate buy signal.
Let's dig into that financial language you keep circling back to, because it links beautifully to the Latin roots Levi relies on.
Oh, I love a good etymology dive. Let's do it.
So the word foundation traces back to the Latin fundus.
Fundus.
Yeah, which literally translates to the bottom, the base, or the ground.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same etymological root for the modern financial concept of a mutual fund, or the principal on a loan.
Oh, that makes so much sense with Ben being a financial advisor.
Exactly. He sees the connection clearly. Levi is desperately searching for the principium, the starting source code of reality.
The ontological capital, like
Yeah.
the principal investment that pays out the interests of our daily lives.
Yes, that is exactly it. And this is vital for understanding what Levi means by high magic.
Right, because when people hear high magic, they think of, like, waving wands or casting hexes or pulling rabbits out of hats.
Right, exactly. But this isn't that. He's trying to build an experimental philosophy.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
He wants to prove that high magic is actually the rigorous science of rooting yourself in the undeniable mathematical constant of existence. Finding that fundus, that absolute bottom, is what allows you to push off and actually affect the world.
Oh, I see. It's the difference between being a serious architect of reality and just being an illusionist trying to impress people with smoke and mirror.
That's a great way to frame it.
Okay, so we have established this silent, raw being. We have the heavy fundus, the principal capital, sitting in the vault.
Right, the bedrock.
But pure being
Yeah.
is silent, right? It's static.
Yeah.
If existence is just silent capital, how does it ever get spent?
That is the big question.
Yeah, like how does the universe actually get built and manipulated? How does this silent potential interact with the physical world around you?
Well, To answer that, Levi makes a really fascinating pivot. We transition conceptually from the Old Testament revelation of Moses to the New Testament theology of St. John the Evangelist.
Okay.
John starts his gospel with a phrase that radically shifts the mechanics of reality. In principio erat verbum. In the beginning was the Word.
In Greek, that word is the logos. And the logos isn't just someone chatting. It's not just talking out loud to hear your own voice.
Not at all. The logos is a massive philosophical concept. It is the underlying reason, the organizing logic, the blueprint of the universe.
Right.
It's the mediating principle between the infinite silent potential of being and the finite physical reality we live in. Levi's great axiom, which forms the core of his magical theory, is that to speak is to create.
To speak is to create.
Yeah. Being is the silent, heavy potential, but the word, the logos, is the actual vibration, the active force that makes things happen.
I'm thinking back to Ben's notes, and he uses another great analogy with his daughter, Ellie.
Oh, the Lego one. Yes, that makes this click perfectly.
Right. So he talks about her playing with her Lego sets. When she's sitting on the floor building these elaborate Lego worlds, she's constantly narrating the lives of these little plastic people,
Yeah, just talking out loud to herself.
Exactly. And in that moment, she becomes, as Levi puts it, he within whom the verb is expressed.
Wow.
I know, right? She is literally sustaining that tiny plastic kingdom through her internal speech and her imagination.
That is a staggering claim from Levi when you really think about it.
It really is. Basically, our ability to form a thought, to speak internally, means we are actively participating in the exact same divine principle that sparked the universe.
And this brings us right back to why Descartes got it so spectacularly backwards. I mean, Descartes realized that we speak internally, right?
Yeah, that we have an internal monologue that we think.
Right. But he tried to play God by making that internal reflection the source of the light.
Oh, wow. He made the mirror the light bulb.
Exactly. That is a great way to put it. Levi argues that human intelligence is supposed to reveal the word, not just chatter endlessly about it.
Right.
Intelligence is simply a spark of that original isness that has finally found a localized voice. It's the universe realizing it's a part of the whole and then, expressing it.
So when you think correctly, you aren't generating reality. You are just organizing it.
Precisely.
That idea of silent potential suddenly bursting into vibratory, organizing action, it perfectly mirrors the actual physical mechanics of music.
Oh, absolutely.
And that brings us to the most unique source in our stack today. The original song inspired by Levi's text, titled Descartes' Error.
The song is a fascinating synthesis of all this material. I mean, it brilliantly captures the tension between Descartes' hyper-rationalism and Levi's experimental philosophy.
Yeah, the lyrics directly contrast that cold, isolated logic of Descartes with the visceral, heavy reality of Levi's concept of being. Let's really look at some of these lyrics because they just paint such a vivid picture.
Oh, definitely. Where do you want to start?
Well, the first verse sets up Descartes perfectly. It goes, candle smoke in a shuttered room, black ink drying in the gloom.
Right, which feels so sterile and isolated immediately.
It does. And then it says, a man makes thought his cornerstone, tries to raise a world alone.
Wow. Yeah, trying to raise a world alone.
And it even calls his method cold blue screens and tidy sums. Very, calculated. But then the chorus shifts dramatically to Levi's perspective. It goes, blood and breath and living spark speaking fire into the dark.
And then there's the line, just the weight beneath the dream. Oh, I love that line.
It is an incredible poetic distillation of the fundus. The song heavily reflects Levi's reliance on another 19th century figure, a French radical priest named Hugues Félicité Robert de Lamennais.
Okay, that's a mouthful. Lamennais. Yeah.
And he argued fiercely that individual human reason is a terrible, unstable foundation for society or reality.
So he's anti-Descartes too.
Very much so. He basically said, if you rely solely on your own isolated thinking, you are just an echo bouncing around in a dark hall. You have no origin point.
Oh, which is exactly what the bridge of the song addresses. It goes, You're not the echo in the hall, you're the voice that builds it all. In the notes, Ben uses the principle of playing music to explain this, and it makes total sense.
How so?
There is an underlying silent principle to music, like the physics of the vibrating strings, the mathematical intervals of the scales. That is the silent potential, the being.
Right, but actually playing the song is the verb. Anyone who has ever tried to learn an instrument knows the palpable, frustrating difference between the strenuous effort of thinking about where your fingers go on the piano versus slipping into the flow state.
Oh, sure. Where you're just being in the music, pulling hidden notes out of the air without thinking at all.
Exactly.
When you are in that flow state, you aren't hypothesizing your existence. You aren't mentally calculating your right to be there. You are standing firmly on the heavy, silent weight of actual existence and letting it move through you.
You drop the hypotheticals.
You do. And the final verse of the song hits this beautifully. Thought can shimmer, thought can bend, thought can talk and never stand. But being has a heavier sound, like a kick drum underground.
Kick drum underground.
Yeah.
That is such a visceral, bodily way to describe the fundos, that ontological capital.
It really is.
Thought is just a shimmer on the surface of the water, constantly shifting and bending depending on your mood or what you ate for breakfast. But being is heavy. It's the rhythmic thud that lands right in the center of your chest. It's the ground.
And ultimately, that is Levi's entire mission with Module 1, Unit 1 of his School of Magic. He wants to demonstrate that the light of human reason and the light of divine revelation are actually powered by the exact same source.
Right.
The supreme being, described to Moses as I am he who is the ultimate principle. Everything else, like all our speech, all our art, all our daily creation, is just the interest being paid out on that original massive deposit of existence.
If you understand that, you hold the keys to a mental philosophy.
Exactly.
So bringing this all the way back down to earth, what does this actually mean for you listening right now?
Right. Why does it matter?
Yeah. Why does a 19th century debate over obscure French philosophy and occult magic matter to your life today?
Well, it matters deeply because whether we realize it or not, we are all still living in Descartes' anxious world.
We absolutely are.
Yeah.
I mean, we prioritize the mental noise over the spiritual silence every single day.
Oh, 100%.
We define ourselves entirely by our anxieties, our endless internal chatter, the hypotheticals of what might happen tomorrow at work.
Or the regret of what went wrong yesterday.
Exactly. We constantly try to think our way into feeling real, as if our worth is tied to our cognitive output.
But Levi is, stepping through time to remind you that you do not think your way into existence.
Right.
You exist, full stop. And because you exist, you have the beautiful luxury of thinking. If you can root yourself in being, the pure, unadulterated, unanxious fact of your physical existence, you find a stability that your hyperactive intellect can never, ever offer.
It is a fundamental shift in identity, from the stressed human brain to the quiet divine spark.
It's the profound difference between staring at a reflection in a mirror, terrified it might vanish, and realizing you are the person actually standing in the room.
One is a consequence. The other is the cause.
Levi's magic is simply the practice of choosing to be the cause.
Which leaves us with a final lingering thought for you to mull over.
Yeah, there is a very striking, almost unsettling visual mentioned in the sources from Levi's original work.
Right, the illustration of a hand making a traditional sign of blessing.
Yes, reaching upward. But that hand is casting the shadow of a horned demon on the wall behind it.
It's such a wild image.
It symbolizes the absolute balance of the universe's law. The ancient Hermetic principle of as above, so below. Basically, every action has its reflection in the material world.
Exactly. So if, as Levi passionately argues, our internal speech and our thoughts literally shape our reality,
Right.
if his core axiom to speak is to create is actually true, then what does the shadow of our unexpressed, anxious, or negative thoughts look like in the physical world?
The world we are co-creating every single day.
Right. If you are the voice that builds the hall, what kind of reality are you speaking into existence right now?
Such a good question.
Remember, you aren't just the reflection in the glass. You're the one standing in the room. So, make sure you like what you're building.